Now joining us, Peter DeBenedictis. He is running for governor of New Mexico, considered a dark horse candidate because he is to the left of his other opponents in the race. Well, I'm very interested in that. How so, Peter? How are you to the left of the other Democrats in the race?
Hi, Cenk. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight.
No problem.
I'm the only candidate in the race for governor who does not take corporate money. That alone puts me way far to the left of everybody. I'm the only candidate in the race who's supporting single-payer health care for all New Mexicans through the New Mexico Health Security Campaign. I'm also the only candidate who supports 100% renewable energy and banning fracking. And I'm one of two candidates who supports $15 an hour minimum wage and legalizing cannabis.
Ooh, that's fun. It's interesting because you worked as an alcohol and drug prevention educator. So, you know, when I was growing up, the main thing that people who wanted to prevent drugs would say was just say no to marijuana, and say that was a gateway drug, et cetera. You've got 20 years in fighting alcohol and drug addiction. So what's your take on marijuana vis-a-vis that issue?
Well, first I have to say, I remember Dr. Timothy Leary said, just say no, thank you. I know. The reality is I'm a research geek. I have a PhD, and I like to base decisions on evidence. And the evidence is pretty clear that when cannabis is legalized, the youth rates of usage do not go up. In fact, in Colorado, they actually dropped. When cannabis is legalized, we see a 25% decrease in opioid prescription deaths in all the states that have legalized it. And we've also seen that there's no difference in the amount of car accidents, car crashes in states where cannabis is legal versus cannabis where it's not. So this is just moral prohibition. And the reality is, I don't want to have a government where they're telling you what you can or can't do if it doesn't harm another person.
Yeah, you know, I got a couple of ideas for your campaign as we're talking. You should run ads where you're running against Heisenberg. It is New Mexico. Say, I'm going to put Heisenberg out of business. I'm going to legalize marijuana. Now, I know he was doing meth, but still.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, maybe it's because I was wearing our Heisenberg T-shirt from earlier today. Anyway, so now let's talk about the effects on the economy it can have. Because putting the kidding aside, I mean, this legalizing marijuana has a lot of positive effects, as you were alluding to. It's not a gateway drug, as you've experienced in your career in fighting drug addiction. But how about the positive economic effects?
So first of all, put it in context. New Mexico's last in everything. And we didn't get here by accident. We got here because our politicians, who do take tons of corporate money, have made decisions that really don't help the people of our state. So we're 49th in wages, we're 49th in jobs. It's quite terrible. A third of our kids, 30% of them, are food insecure and possibly going to bed hungry at night. So we desperately need this. It's estimated that in the first year alone, we'll see $400 million in sales and 16,000 new jobs created. And for a state that's pretty small, 1.2 million population, that 16,000 jobs is a lot. But I want to boost this even higher. I'm an advocate for a publicly owned state bank. The state has a $4 billion operating fund. If we just deposit it in ourselves instead of putting it in banking criminals like Wells Fargo to take care of, we can fill out the paperwork to be a bank. Through the power of fractional lending, we instantly have $40 billion we can loan out. So we can actually start to seed businesses in hemp as well as in cannabis. And we can start to grow our economy that way. And then something I want to do that's revolutionary is I'd like to see, because most state banks, like in North Dakota, they don't allow commercial deposits. I'd like to set up a commercial division just for the cannabis industry. So the money will be protected in case the IRS wants to go after them. And I'd like to see New Mexico become the cannabis banking capital of our country. It'll really jumpstart the economy.
Man, wouldn't it be amazing if we had actual progressives in office?
That's why I'm running. It's like missionary work almost. It's like you have to go out there and carry the message. The good news is since I've been pushing the state bank, all 6 candidates in the Democratic Party for lieutenant governor have publicly come out and supported it in their stump speech. So they realize where their bread is buttered. the two major candidates that I'm running against have quietly come to my campaign and said, well, this is something we need to know about, the state bank and single payer healthcare. And I'm like, read my website. Or if you want to make a public statement together, I'd be happy to go and do a press conference to say we both endorse this. But don't expect me to run your campaign.
I don't know if they know this. You're running against them.
Yeah.
So, but it is their dismissive attitude that's maddening. Oh, okay, you got a good idea. Can we pretend to be on that side? You think that the establishment candidates are going to go and create a public bank in New Mexico and then use it in the way that you described for cannabis? Inconceivable.
Right.
That's why I'm so sick of having to try to coax and plead and beg establishment Democrats to do the right thing. Why don't we just elect progressives? So, well, but and Peter, but let's stay on the public bank for a second, because coincidentally, I just did a long, really interesting interview about public banks on TYT Interviews earlier this week, and they talked about the public bank in North Dakota and how successful it's been. And I'm not sure that people know enough about it. So just give me a little bit more, give the audience a little bit more as to what New Mexico could do and what the benefits of that public bank are. Because right now, all we know is private banks like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan. So a public bank is a little mind-bending for people.
Yeah, see, what people don't understand is that fractional lending exists. The amount of money that is loaned out in our country is 10 times, supposedly, because the Federal Reserve is not audited, is supposedly 10 times the amount that is actually in hand in the bank. So it's fractional lending. So if we take our state money, our $4 billion operating fund, which is just what we use to write checks and pay workers with and stuff like that, deposit in ourselves, through the power of fractional lending, we have 10 times that amount. That's $36 billion in free money. So instead of paying the Federal Reserve, which by the way is privately owned, there's 8 banking families, it's not the US government. So instead of paying those 8 families to become wealthier and wealthier, what we do is we pay ourselves. We get that 36 billion, we're out there loaning it. I want to put solar panels on top of every single school in the state, have them pay us back at the rate that they pay their current electric bills with. And that will end up just giving them, once it's paid off, it'll give them like 15 more years of free energy. It's like the equivalent of $100 to $200 per student per year. And then we get the money back, and it's no longer $36 billion in just fractional money. It's $36 billion we have now. And that's how it's going to boost up the state. It's why wealth has been concentrated to the 1%. We need to break that, and the public bank is the biggest way to break it.
Yeah, and at a minimum, the state gets the interest rather than some bank like JP Morgan Chase getting the interest.
Right, they're going to export it overseas, yeah.
Yep, okay. So one more thing that's in your list of priorities that I don't see in other places. Now look, you got this, you're progressive, so you got single payer health care, increasing the minimum wage, et cetera. You got all that, but I don't see statewide access to early childhood education on a lot of the platforms, or at least prioritize, but you prioritize that. Why is that?
Generational poverty. The data shows that kids below the poverty line, only 48% of them are ready for school when it's time for them to start school. Whereas kids above the poverty line is about almost 80% are ready to take advantage of school. Kids with early childhood education finish high school more often, they're married more often, they have own homes and have jobs more often, things we want. So because our state is so poor, I mean, come on, a third of our kids go to bed hungry at night. I mean, it's insane. We're in the US and that's how we live here. It's generational. Unless we actually start working with those kids at a very early level, it's the haves are going to have and the have-nots are just going to be left behind.
So I want to show everybody the links to help Peter if you're so inclined. So these will be in the description box, so you can just click on them if you're watching on YouTube. And also, of course, on the comment section in Facebook. Donations are helpful, obviously, for people only taking small donations like Peter and not taking corporate PAC money. And
I really need to push that, Cenk, because I'm going to be outspent 100 to 1, maybe 1,000 to 1. Doesn't matter. We can win this because people are so hungry for honesty and truth. But it does take some money to have field staff and just a little bit of media for name recognition. So anybody out there who wants to change the way government is done, we can start a wave here in New Mexico. If you could just help out with a donation, I'd be so blessed. Thank you.
Yeah, how's he going to run those ads against Heisenberg if he doesn't have any money? I even thought of like, I don't know if you remember the old Ron DMC song, My Adidas. D. Benedictus. I'm trying, brother.
Okay, I gave a stump speech over the weekend, and when I got done, I heard the guy in the front row shout out, "Peter D for me." So,
all right, Peter D for me. That's not so bad. All right, Peter, good luck in the race. And I always encourage everybody, do your research, find out who's running in the race, look at their platforms and see who you support more, and then get out there, volunteer, donate, and then most especially vote. Thank you.
I put my platform online last March. The other candidates ran Facebook page platforms like their prom king and queen. They've only released platforms in the last month or two. The other candidates raise money, then address issues. That's why things are broken.
All right, there you have it. Peter, thank you for joining us at Rebel Headquarters. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.